Welcome back to the Serving My Master podcast. Now that we have the background, the history, and the basis of understanding of how we approach the Torah, how we approach its commandments, and the unmovable standing of emunah, of being faithful and loyal to Hashem and to His mitzvahs, of course we have to start with the first mitzvah given in the Torah, with the first piece of guidance gifted to us by Hashem, the Master of the world. And as we all know, this is the mitzvah of having children. And I think we can divide this into three parts. The first one, and most obvious one, Hashem instructed us and showed us the importance of the continuity of this world, of making sure that there will be another generation, of making sure that there will be another generation of servants to fulfill the will and the wish of the Master of the world. And indeed, how important is that? It is so important that this is the first commandment, the first mitzvah, to make sure and to make certain that the service never ends, bringing out that importance, that message that needs to be in the forefront of our minds every single day and every single moment, that the service to the Master of the world could never end, because indeed, if it did, there would be no point in a world. There would be no point in the universe if there is no one in it to serve its master, if there was no one in it to fulfill its original purpose. And of course, for that, we were told as the first mitzvah to have children. But let's take it to another level. We were told to have children to prepare for another generation, to show us that not only do we have an obligation to do what we need to do in the moment, but we have an obligation to prepare for what's coming. We have an obligation to make sure that we have the tools and the ability and the capability to do what we need to do and to fulfill what we need to fulfill. Because as we will see, many of the commandments in the Torah, many of the guidance that was given to us is to follow through and to put forward everything that we have and everything that we were given. And therefore it is upon us to actually prepare for the next generation. And this is not just to prepare for the next generation, but to prepare for ourselves. To prepare ourselves today for what's coming tomorrow. To prepare ourselves today for the challenge that we will face in a year from now or in a decade from now. The Torah is telling us that we always need to be on guard for what's coming. And on the third note, the Torah is telling us the first mitzvah is to have children. Because without children, without a new generation of servants, we would not be able to fulfill the rest of the commandments. In other words, we not only have the obligation to fulfill the commandments, to prepare for tomorrow's commandment, but we are also obligated to make sure that we can fulfill the other commandments. Our whole day needs to be of service. We mentioned a couple of days ago how a person can reach a level where not only every moment in their day is of service, but their sleep is of service. Everything that we do, the fact that we eat, that we drink, that we take in sustenance to survive and to have energy, every single part of our day needs to be in service of the Master of the world. And this is what the first commandment is teaching us, telling us that our only calculation is to make sure the continuity of service to make sure that there will always be another servant, and to make sure that we ourselves will be able to continue to serve the master of the world. Otherwise, there were so many calculations. Before making such a major decision as to having a child, would the person ever say that they're ready to have a child? To take under that responsibility of providing for a child? Taking the responsibility of all the emotions that come along with having a child? But the Torah is teaching us there are no other calculations other than the service of our master. And therefore, we need to only think, how do we make sure that this service will continue beyond ourselves? How do we make sure that this service will continue for us tomorrow? And how do we make sure that we will be able to not only fulfill the commandments we can think of in this moment, but we'll be able to fulfill all commandments? And this is shown again and again, how a person needs to be able to know and learn things that are maybe not relevant today. Things like the commandments that are relevant to Eretz Yisrael and to the Beis HaMikdash, which should come b'mheira. And how a person has a chiyuv to learn those things, because indeed we have to be ready to not only serve and to not only fulfill the commandments that we have today, but we have to prepare ourselves to be able to be in full service of our master at any given moment, no matter what the service might demand at the time. Because indeed, that is the purpose. And that is the only yearning of a loyal and faithful servant, to always be ready. Not just to have their own calculations and plans and what fits in their own mind, but to be ready, faithful, and loyal to the master no matter what the master might need and command at the moment. And that is what we learn in the first commandment, in the first mitzvah, in the first Parsha of the Torah. And maybe, just maybe, this is something that is telling us how we're supposed to look at every commandment that comes after that. How we're supposed to take a new lens and a new vision and a new perspective on every single mitzvah, to understand that mitzvahs are not just singular commandments, but each one is so broad and so encompassing that it's supposed to encompass our entire day. That it's supposed to make us feel, make us think, make us recalculate and recalibrate ourselves. Every single mitzvah is something, a lesson to take with us for the entire day and for our entire lives. And that is the message of the first mitzvah. It is not just one thing. The Torah that Hashem has gifted us is not just a simple book of instructions, but each one can take our entire lives to a new level. Can take our entire way of thinking to a new level, and to prepare us for what's coming tomorrow, and to prepare us to be able to become the ultimate servant that we all yearn to become. Thank you for joining me today in this conversation. I look forward to continuing this discussion with you. And please, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, feel free to send them in. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.